Younger me, right now you think you're walking towards something. You imagine life as a road that stretches out forever, a quiet straight line towards success, happiness and meaning. You think time is your companion, but it's not. It's a fuse. And one day, sooner than you expect, you'll wake up and realize you're not moving toward the future anymore. You're standing in it. And the question won't be, where am I going? It'll be, is this it? That's when the mirror cracks. You'll start to see it, just behind your reflection, the shadow, the silence, the emptiness you've hidden behind productivity, the exhaustion you've disguised as ambition, and the feeling you can't explain that despite doing everything right, something's still missing. You won't be alone. Almost everyone arrives here. At midlife, the place they told you would be a crisis but never said it was a doorway. Younger me, I came back to bring you something most people never get a second chance. And I didn't come alone. I brought voices from those who knew what we forget. Carl Jung, the man who spent his life decoding the unconscious and found that the thing we fear most is what we most need. Abraham Maslow, who warned us that success might be the most elegant trap of all. Viktor Frankl, who proved meaning can survive even where life does not. Soren Kierkegaard, who said, freedom doesn't feel like wings, it feels like dizziness. Carl Rogers, who whispered that, the moment you stop pretending is the moment you begin. And Alfred Adler, who showed us that your past is not a sentence, it's a story, and you hold the pen. But they didn't leave us maps, they left us mirrors, because midlife isn't when your life is over, it's when your real life begins. And to find it, younger me, you must be willing to let go of the person you worked so hard to become, the one they applauded, the one you perfected, the one who is already gone. You want the truth? Your future isn't ahead of you, it's waiting behind everything you've been afraid to face. Let's begin. There's a man in your mirror that you've never met. He doesn't smile on cue. He doesn't say what people want to hear. He doesn't try to be good. He tries to be whole. And one day, younger me, you're going to need him. Carl Jung understood what most people spend their whole lives avoiding. He was a Swiss psychiatrist, yes, but more than that, he was a map maker of the soul. And what he found is this. There are parts of you that you've hidden so well you no longer know they exist. Younger me, you've spent your whole life becoming someone, the right someone, the respectful son, the useful employee, the friend everyone counts on. You became a version of yourself that made the world comfortable. And you called that person you, but that wasn't all of you. Everything you denied, the rage, the lust, the doubt, the desire to scream when everyone else clapped, that didn't disappear. It became your shadow, and as long as you keep pretending it isn't there, it will rule you from the dark. This is the paradox Jung uncovered. What we suppress becomes what controls us. Midlife is when the mask slips. You start reacting in ways you can't explain. You feel resentment you thought you'd outgrown. You lash out, withdraw, numb out, not because you're broken, but because the shadow has come to collect its due. But here's what no one tells you. The shadow isn't evil. It's exiled. And if you ignore it, it becomes monstrous. But if you face it, it becomes power. You see, inside that shadow is your rawness, your instincts, your voice before it was edited, the you before the world taught you to behave. And integrating it doesn't make you dangerous. It makes you whole. So how do you begin? Start with what repels you. The people who trigger you, the traits you judge, the thoughts you don't say out loud. Trace them, own them, let them speak. Write down the thing you never want anyone to know about you. Now read it out loud. That's your shadow knocking. Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is not fate. It's a script you can rewrite, but only if you stop acting and start listening. So when the mirror cracks, don't panic. The man behind the mask isn't a stranger. He's the one you've been looking for. Do you remember the first time they clapped for you? The test score, the trophy, the compliment, the feeling that finally you mattered. You thought, this is it. This is what success feels like, and you were wrong. Abraham Maslow spent his life studying people, not just the high achievers, but the fulfilled, the ones who weren't just admired, but alive. And what he found shattered everything. Younger me, we were lied to. They told us that success would make us happy, that money, security, admiration, they were the goal, but Maslow saw the truth. Success is a ladder you climb, only to realize too late it was leaning against the wrong wall. And here's the trap: for a while it feels right. You chase promotions, build your reputation, make people proud, and the world rewards you. But then you arrive and the applause fades and the silence comes. And in that silence, a question echoes: is this all there is? That question is the crack in the ladder, and if you're brave enough to follow it, you'll stop climbing and start becoming. Maslow's hierarchy is simple. At the base, safety, survival. In the middle, belonging. At the top, self-actualization, becoming the most alive version of yourself. But most people never get there. They build comfort, they trade fire for furniture, they call it adulthood, but it's quiet suffocation. And here's the paradox: the closer you get to real freedom, the scarier it feels. Because self-actualization demands risk. It asks you to walk away from success that isn't yours, from a life that makes sense on paper, but not in your bones. So how do you know if you're stuck? Ask yourself, if no one was watching, would I still be doing this? Maslow didn't admire the richest, he admired the most honest, the ones who left six-figure jobs to paint, the parents who turned down promotions to be present, the souls who stopped chasing applause and started listening to the whisper inside that said, there's more. Younger me, your career is not your character, your resume is not your story, your worth is not your wage. And when the world offers you another rung on the ladder, ask where it leads. Because the most successful people aren't climbing, they're building. Not careers, not brands, but lives that feel like their own. So stop asking, what should I achieve next? Start asking, what would I do if I wasn't afraid to disappoint anyone? And then do that. Because that sound you hear in the distance, it isn't applause, it's your real life calling. Younger me, let me take you to a night you've forgotten. Not a dramatic one, just an ordinary Tuesday. You were driving home, radio low, headlights carving 2 tunnels through the dark. You had the job, the apartment, the partner, the health. You were, by every measure, winning, but your hands gripped the steering wheel like something was slipping. The lights turned green, and still you hesitated. That feeling, younger me, that slow suffocation in the middle of success, that is the moment most people mistake for failure. But it's not failure, it's the beginning of something else. It's the absence of meaning. You've been told happiness is a prize, that if you play the game right, get the grades, the job, the ring, the praise, you'll win the feeling. But it's a lie dressed as logic, and no matter how many times you win, you'll still find yourself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering why your soul feels underfed. Let me introduce you to Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist who was stripped of everything, a prisoner in Auschwitz. His family murdered, his career erased, his dignity assaulted. And yet, even there, surrounded by cruelty and death, he made a discovery that would outlive every ideology, that even in unimaginable suffering, a person could choose to create meaning. Frankl watched as some men died from hopelessness, while others, starved, broken, barefoot, shared their last piece of bread. Why? Because they had found something worth suffering for, a reason, a memory, a mission. And in that moment, Frankl saw the difference between existence and life. He taught us something radical. Meaning is not something you find, it's something you forge. Younger me, midlife is not a warning sign, it's a mirror. It's the moment when the achievements that once defined you no longer satisfy you. Not because you failed, but because you outgrew the game. Frankl described 3 paths to meaning. The first is through creation, when you make something that didn't exist before, a story, a business, a garden, a life. The second is through connection, the kind of love that enlarges you, even if it breaks you. The third and the hardest is through suffering, transforming pain into purpose and letting your scars speak. You already know this in your bones. Remember when you helped someone grieve just by being there, or the moment you said something real to someone who needed it and it changed them? That wasn't a detour from your life. That was your life. Here's the paradox. You spend half your life chasing feelings, joy, pride, validation, but meaning doesn't feel like ecstasy. It feels like direction, like stillness, like peace. And the cruel joke is this: the more you chase happiness, the more it runs. But when you serve something bigger than yourself, it circles back, quietly, reverently, and it stays. So, the next time you wake up with that weight on your chest and no idea why, don't reach for distraction. Don't numb it. Listen, it's not depression. It's a question. And it's asking you, who are you, now that you've built everything you thought you wanted and still feel empty? Answer it with your hands, with your time, with your courage. Younger me, meaning is not waiting for you at the end of the road. It's buried in the moments you almost dismissed. It's forged in fire, and now is the moment you start building a life that burns with it. Younger me, let me tell you about a different kind of fear, not the kind that shouts, not the kind that protects you from fire or cliffs. This one whispers. It creeps in when everything is stable. It shows up in the quiet, in the good enough, in the well-decorated cage you've built around your life. It's the fear of becoming someone you don't recognize because you were too careful to ever become who you are. That fear, that's the one you need to follow. Søren Kierkegaard was a Danish philosopher, melancholic and misunderstood, who named this strange terror. He called it the dizziness of freedom. That moment when you realize you are no longer bound by excuses, no longer trapped by circumstance. You are free to leap, and that freedom makes you sick with fear because the leap is irrational. It doesn't come with a blueprint or applause. It doesn't wait for permission. It demands trust, not in the outcome, but in yourself. You've been waiting to feel ready. But Kierkegaard would look you in the eye and say readiness is a myth. You're either alive or you're rehearsing. This is the paradox. The longer you delay the leap, the louder the regret becomes. But the moment you leap, the moment you trust without guarantees, you become someone you never could have met from the ledge. Think about the moments you didn't move, the time you wanted to say I love you but didn't. The moment you almost walked away from the wrong job, the time you dreamed something bold, then talked yourself down in the name of being realistic. Those weren't moments of fear, they were moments of decision. Midlife is when you wake up and realize that your safety net has become a noose, that you're not afraid of failing anymore, you're afraid of wasting what's left. And if you've reached that point, younger me, I want you to hear this with your whole body. The fear you feel right now isn't a warning, it's a signal. It means go. Kierkegaard believed in what he called the leap of faith. But faith doesn't always mean God. Sometimes it means faith in your voice, in your intuition, in the part of you that doesn't need to explain itself. You won't know where you'll land. That's the point. But the ground you're looking for will never appear beneath your feet. It rises only when you move. So how do you take the leap? You stop calculating. You start listening. You feel the fear and walk toward it, not recklessly, but honestly. And then, when the moment comes, you jump, not because it's safe, but because staying is a slow death in disguise. Younger me, the next chapter of your life is not written. You cannot analyze your way into it. You must leap your way into it. And when you do, the world won't catch you. But something far more important will. You will catch yourself. Younger me, picture this. You're sitting at a dinner table, smiling. The conversation flows. You laugh at the right moments. You nod. You say all the things you're supposed to. And yet when you excuse yourself and step into the bathroom, you look into the mirror and feel nothing. You've been there. That quiet ache behind your eyes. That strange distance between who you are and how you show up. Carl Rogers understood this ache. He wasn't just a psychologist. He was a pioneer of presence. He spent his life listening to the space between words. And what he discovered was this. Most people aren't suffering because they're failing. They're suffering because they're pretending. Younger me, you became someone admirable, respected, capable. But somewhere in the performance you misplaced yourself. The edits became the script, the mask became the face. Here's the paradox Rogers uncovered. The harder you try to be acceptable, the further you drift from what's real. And the more you drift, the more the soul begins to suffocate. You keep asking why you feel disconnected, why your laughter feels rehearsed, why you keep succeeding but feel strangely absent from your own life. It's not burnout, it's self-abandonment. You've mistaken approval for alignment, belonging for congruence, adaptability for authenticity, but there's a version of you, quiet, maybe forgotten, still intact beneath the armor, the version that doesn't perform, that doesn't apologize for being too intense, too soft, too much, or not enough. That version is waiting. So how do you find your way back? Start by noticing the edits, the way you hold back your real opinion, the way you bend your tone to match the room, the way you laugh even when something doesn't land. Then listen for what still pulls at you, not the goals, the longings, the buried joy, the secret creativity, the weirdness you locked away to be accepted. And most of all, practice radical self-acceptance, not because you're perfect, but because you're not, and you never needed to be. Rogers said, "When I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." That's not a contradiction, that's the invitation. Real growth doesn't begin with fixing, it begins with facing. Younger me, you've spent your life being a version of yourself that earned love. But you're allowed to be the version that simply is. And when you finally walk into a room without shrinking, without editing, without checking the temperature before you speak, the people who matter won't turn away. They'll lean in. Because authenticity isn't a strategy, it's a frequency. And the moment you tune into yours, your life starts to hum again. Younger me, let's go back to a moment. You're 12. You drop the ball, everyone watches, someone laughs, and in that instant you decide, I'm not good at this, I mess things up, I don't belong under pressure, and without even realizing it, that becomes the beginning of a story. A quiet one. A story you don't speak out loud, but repeat in your choices, your limits, your silence. Alfred Adler knew how deeply stories shape us. He believed that our problems are rarely about what happened to us, but about the meaning we attach to it, the story we told. Younger me, you've been living inside a story that's too small for you, one written in moments of pain, misunderstanding and fear. A script you didn't write, but have been performing for decades. The story says, you're the reliable one, but not the creative one. You're the calm one, but not the leader. You're the strong one, so you're not allowed to fall apart. You're the quiet one, so your voice doesn't carry. But here's the paradox Adler revealed. The moment you see your personality not as your truth, but as a survival strategy, you are free to choose a new one. The question is no longer what happened to me. It's what have I been rehearsing? And do I want to keep playing this role? Because personality isn't a sentence, it's a shield, and shields can be set down. Look back, can you find the moment you became who you thought you had to be? The moment you stepped into the role that felt safest? Now look again, can you find even one moment when you broke that pattern? When you led, when you spoke, when you stood tall and the sky didn't fall? That's not an exception, that's your glimpse into who you are without the old script. So rewrite it. Stop saying, always mess this up. Stop saying, that's just the way I am. Stop handing your pen to people who stopped writing their own stories years ago. You're not bound to your backstory. You're not a character in someone else's memory. You are the author, wide awake at the page. Younger me, your past is not permission. It's a page you get to turn. And the new chapter, it doesn't need to follow the old plot. It needs only one thing, your truth, in your own handwriting. So here we are, younger me. You've walked through your shadow, faced the lie of success, stepped into meaning, dared the leap, shed the mask, rewritten the script. This is not the end of your story, this is where it finally begins. Jung showed you that you were never broken, only unfinished, that the parts you buried are the parts that complete you. Maslow revealed that success without selfhood is just a better prison, that fulfillment doesn't come from reaching the top, but from becoming whole. Frankl taught you that happiness isn't something you chase, it's what rises when you choose to live with meaning. Kierkegaard dared you to leap into the unknown and trust the invisible ground rising to meet you. Rogers showed you that the moment you stop pretending, life stops passing you by and finally starts arriving through you. And Adler gave you back the pen. He reminded you that the story is yours, not theirs. Not yesterday's, not fears, yours. Younger me, the awakening you feared was a breakdown, was really a breakthrough. The unraveling was the invitation. The silence was the voice you'd been trying to drown. You don't need a new life. You need to live the one that's already waiting, beneath the expectation, the armor, the noise. So here's your call, not to hustle, not to impress, not to escape, but to return. Return to the life that's already calling you by name. And if you're listening now, really listening, then you already know it's time. If this spoke to you, leave a trace of yourself. Tell us in the comments what chapter woke you up, because this isn't just a video, it's a mirror, and your real life, the one that was always yours, begins now.